Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video. Is Ireland set to be Europe's next out-of-home battleground? Keep watching to find out more.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadin.
Gary, today we are going to talk about the Emerald Isle.
Ah, yes.
But not just the Emerald Isle. We're going to talk about out-of-home in Ireland. How about that?
Out-of-home in Ireland. Yes, I think it's coming alive, I think, finally, isn't it?
Well, yeah, to give you a lead in, earlier this year, DPD announced that they were going to install 1,500 parcel lockers in Ireland by the end of 2028. In July, the same company announced a €10 million investment to expand its logistics network, creating 200 new jobs. But in addition, Evri has revealed that it has now 550 PUDOs in the Republic. And InPost has announced a deal with the GAA, what's that going to be, Gaelic Athletic Association or something, to install 1,000 lockers at Gaelic sports clubs. So, hey, it's all happening. Everyone is doing something, with the exception, it appears, of AnPost.
Well, AnPost have been playing with the idea of lockers for at least 6 or 7 years. They've had management consultants in to advise them. And from my conversations with them way back when, I think it just was one of these bureaucratic things where they didn't really know who was going to be responsible for it. Was it going to be an operational solution that the ops guys would put out and make part of the network? Or was it an extension of retail? Was it going to be part and parcel of the post office infrastructure? Because obviously in Ireland, they're the one organisation, as they are in most countries, with the exception of the UK, where post office and Royal Mail are separate. And how is that all going to work? And if you want to kill a locker project, in my experience, is get the retail guys to take a look at it. Because the first thing they do is try to protect the retail estate and put the lockers inside the post offices. So I think there's been a whole melee of things going on at Post, and I don't think they've come out of the end of their thinking tunnel yet with a bright idea.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So probably for those and 1,000 other reasons, AnPost hasn't really made it. They had a really small number of lockers. I think they sold to someone else. I can't remember who. Then you had Fastway, who went into receivership, and they didn't have lockers, but they had quite a lot of PUDOs, from what I remember. But this is a different ballgame. It looks like everyone has now, or almost everyone, has recognized that there is an opportunity. And, if you look at the Last Mile Experts Out of Home report, you'll see that Ireland was one of the markets with the least density of points and certainly of lockers. So, it's a big opportunity. I think it's super cool that the DPD is moving ahead very fast because it is virgin territory. But, what's the end game, Gary? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, you've got Evri bought Collate a couple of years ago as well. So they've now got an Irish delivery entity. So they'll be using the same model they made super successful with out of home on the mainland in Ireland by going first of all for shops and then ultimately to lockers. So I think you'll just see Evri covering the whole of the Isle of Ireland, if you like, in the same way as it does the mainland in the UK. So I think the end game is it looks a bit like the UK. Two things about the Irish market that I think are probably worth mentioning. One is there are very few DCs in Ireland. Nearly all of the home delivery traffic comes from DCs in the UK, either direct into Dublin or a huge amount because of the Brexit and the border issues. Tons of it goes into Belfast and then it's cross-bordered from Belfast into the Republic. It's much easier to do that than it is to take stuff straight to Dublin. So having a good connection there, which is what Evri have got with Collate, and Yodel had back in the day. Do you remember Yodel? Back in the day, Yodel were a carrier in the UK. I'm hoping we all forget quickly. But they did have an excellent service into Ireland by using this Belfast-Dublin gateway. The second thing as well is it's one of the most polarized populations in Europe. There is Dublin, and there is effectively other little villages that didn't have postcodes until about 10 years ago. So
I remember the postcode situation.
I think we did a video. There were 2 postcodes. There was Dublin 1 and Dublin 2, and that was it. And then there was everywhere else didn't have a postcode. So now that's all kind of sorted. But I think what that means is that to be successful in Ireland with out of home, basically you're talking about being successful in Dublin. So if anything, the race to get locations in Dublin is going to be even more fierce than the race to get locations in the UK and in the north. So the winners will be not the one who announces their plans, the biggest plans or the most exciting plans, but the one who really executes on what was definitely going to be a land grab for space.
And I think that is it, execution, because like it or hate it, the players typically that have won have been the ones in other markets who've ruthlessly and systematically executed, put the machines in situ, and then it's much more difficult for the Me Too's to compete. I'm pretty optimistic. I think there's enough smart operators, just naming Evri and DPD, to get this right. The question I think now is going to be, which of those two players is going to win the race? Because like you, I'm doubtful that AnPost at this point is going to be able to reinvent itself.
Well, I mean, you've already had one successful parcel locker business in Ireland already, which was bought and closed down. So Parcel Motel, run by John Toohey, with Nightline, was bought out by UPS. UPS bought the carrier. They shut the parcel locker network down. Now, that worked on one of my least favorite models where consumers paid a subscription to use the locker. So the revenue was generated from consumers, not from the carrier. But it was a genuine agnostic network. Now you've got John has had a second coming, if you like, and to set up another agnostic network with OOH POD or OOH POD or out of home pod or however you want to describe it. But I think it's OOH POD. Now, again, they're an agnostic network. Will they have the same challenges that Quadient are going to have in the UK when all the big players decide to do their own thing and potentially squeeze the door on the opportunity for OOH POD to become a leading carrier agnostic locker business in Ireland?
I think Gary did, because I like the Parcel Motel idea, which, if I remember correctly, a lot of it was about people from the UK being able to ship in an efficient way stuff,
Yeah.
or sorry, wrong way around, from Ireland buying in the UK, and they could then ship and collect from a locker. But unfortunately, our friends at UPS, it's not the only one. Think about Kiala, the first large out-of-home network in Europe that UPS bought and then successfully killed within about, I think, 3 or 4 years. So, but let's hope it doesn't go this way in Ireland. Without wanting to deprecate, the great job that John's done, I don't see. Was it OOH POD?
OOH POD. OOH POD.
OOH POD. Sorry. Okay, we've got OOH POD. Actually being one of the key players there. I think it's going to be, for me, clearly between DPD and Evri. Let's see if our viewers have got a different view, especially viewers from Ireland. Hopefully we have some. Then it would be great to hear your opinions. And Gary, as usual, interesting talking about something new.
Yeah, well, John's gone non-exec now, so he's got time on his hands. I'm sure he'll be typing us 5,000 words on how we've said his company name wrong, misrepresented the history of the business, and generally don't know anything about Ireland at all. So come on, John, what have you got?
Gary, I was looking at the subscriptions and realized that a huge number of our audience actually don't subscribe to watch our videos.
Really? That's outrageous. It's a bit like watching the BBC without your TV license. How can we keep it free if people aren't subscribing and letting us know they want more of this content? It's ridiculous.
And on top of that, if they're not subscribed, they don't get information about the latest hot episode where you can make one of your witty jokes and we can talk about something that is really important for our industry.
If I knew that a single act like that would make sure I got maximum time taking the mickey out of you, I'd be hitting subscribe in a heartbeat.
Well, look, so here we have it. Please, everyone, if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your opportunity. Click right now. The button should be there, or maybe there. Do it now and have it done.